someone like to make a motion to return the regular board meeting to public session, please? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, second. Dr. Venator, thank you. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. I'd like to call the regular board meeting to order. All board members are present this evening. Mr. Matursky, would you please lead us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be advised that in the event of a fire emergency, an evacuation should be necessary. An alarm will sound. Please note all the marked emergency exits and evacuate well away from the building. At this time, we request that everyone turn their cell phones and other electronic devices into silent mode, please. Would someone like to make a motion to add an addendum to the personnel consent agenda and approve the agenda as amended? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, is there a second? Mrs. Van Cise, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda and addendum as presented? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, second. Mrs. Van Cise, discussion. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Moving right along. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the repair reserve bid as presented? Mrs. Beeger, is there a second? Mrs. Van Cise, thank you. Discussion. All in favor? This unanimous things is a trend tonight. Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting and budget work session held on April the 10th, 2018? Mr. Mecca, second. Mr. Meyer, are there any corrections or additions to these minutes? Yes.
Under the President's Report, Part 7, the Erie County School Board meeting on Thursday, April 19th, I think two things got transposed. The April 19th was a regular delegate meeting, not the open house at wherever it was, Harkness or... Whatever. It was a delegates. Okay.
Okay, and the second one? They just both flip-flopped?
I don't have information on the second one. I just know that April 19th was a delegates meeting.
Okay. We can double check on that then.
Wouldn't have had two things at the same time.
I will look into it and make the correction.
Whatever's absolutely
Okay.
Thank you.
the only person who was able to attend.
Okay. Any other corrections? Okay. Noting that that change is forthcoming, is it okay to vote to approve the minutes? Okay. All in favor? Abstentions? Motion carries 801. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting, the board budget work session and public forum meeting that was held on April the 17th, 2018? Mrs. Beeger, thank you. Second? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, are there any corrections or additions to these meetings, or minutes, Okay, all in favor? Abstentions? Motion carries 801. Thank you. The Scholastic Achievement Recognition Dinner is at Salvatore's Italian Gardens on Thursday, May the 17th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Attending right now is myself and Dr. McClary. Are there any other board members that would like to attend?
Nope. I don't think I'm attending that.
I think May 17th? Thursday, May 17th? I recall you saying yes to that. That's okay if you'd like to change your mind. Are there any other board members while Dr. McClary reviews that real quick?
Yes.
Yes, you are attending? Okay, good. Any other board members?
For reminding me.
Okay. If anybody else would like to go, just let the district clerk know, please. The 40th annual dinner meeting on June 7th, 2018 will be at Salvatore's for the Erie County Association of School Board. This is in conflict. Keep in mind that this is the same evening that the PTSA Council Installation and Recognition Dinner at the Brookfield Country Club is occurring. And I know many of us have already RSVP'd for that. So is there anybody that would rather attend this event versus the PTSA Council? Not that I'm putting you on the spot here, but I'm putting you on the spot here. Okay. Does anyone have anything else to report under the Erie County Association of School Boards? Nope. Okay. Mrs. Carey, could you please announce and let us know who the candidates for the school board are for this coming election, please?
Yes, I am pleased to announce we have 7 candidates this year in position. 1A is Dr. Robert Campo. 2A is Dawn Fletch. 3A is Dr. Michael Lippman. 4A is Tony Vasquez. 5A is Sean LeMay. And 6A, Eric Borenstein. And 7A, Mark Mecca. The district vote is May 15th.
And we'll be voting for a budget and for 3 candidates.
3 candidates, yes.
Perfect.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
you.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the hiring of workers and rates of pay for the annual district vote as presented? Mrs. Beeger, is there a second? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. The last community forum for the school calendar year was held on Saturday, the April 28th, 2018 at 9 a.m. at Williamsville South High School. That's this past Saturday. Mrs. Leatherbarrow, would you mind giving us a quick report on the event?
Yes, last Saturday we held our last community forum. It was at, where was it at? South High School. And we had a smaller turnout. We had 8 community members join us. Some of the conversation centered around, well, I'll just read off the list. We had a request for the percentage and number of socioeconomically disadvantaged students that we serve. We talked about career exploration opportunities. We talked about supporting the GT program with consistency across the district. We had a discussion about the possibility of offering Chinese or Mandarin as a foreign language option. We had another lengthy discussion about supporting the emotional needs of our students throughout the district with different levels of programming. We discussed the film Screenagers and the use of technology with a focus on one-to-one devices. And we also talked about, now that class rank has been eliminated, we talked about other opportunities for students to compete in the district. So even though the turnout was a little small, we did have excellent discussion. I would like to thank the members of the community that came out to join us and talk. Thank you.
Great, thank you. The 61st Annual Service to Youth Awards presented by the Williamsville PTSA Council will be held on Monday, May 7th at Williamsville East High School. There will be a reception at 6 p.m. in the Commons, and the awards program in the auditorium will commence at 7 o'clock that evening. This year, the recipients are Michelle Anzalone, who is a professional, Andre Navis, who's in the support staff, and Dana Hensley, who is a volunteer that's being honored. I've got down right now Mrs. Leatherbarrow attending. Unfortunately, I cannot attend due to a prior engagement. However, are there any other board members that could make this event? Mrs. Van Cise?
I'm the Casey rep, so I will be there.
Perfect. Perfect, good. Anybody else?
Just to clarify, is this May 7th?
This is May the 7th, yep.
Okay, I think I might be able to go to that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a total of 3. Anybody else? Okay, if anything changes, just let the district clerk know, please. Dr. Martzloff, that brings us to you and the community update, please.
Yes, just very simply this evening for our community update, I wanted to encourage everyone to come out and vote and participate in the democratic process for the election of 3 school board members, as well as voting on our annual school budget for the 18-19 school year. I look forward to seeing everyone there. I should be there very early until very late, so please stop in and say hello and encourage people to come by and ask questions, and we look forward to an excellent day. So that's all I have at this time, and thank you for our community for their participation.
Okay, thank you. Would someone like to move to take from the table the revised policy 7313, suspension of student policy, for a second reading and adoption, please? Mrs. Van Cise, thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Mecca? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Now that it's on the table, would someone like to make a motion for the second reading and adoption of the revised policy 7313, suspension of student policies? Students policy. Mrs. Leatherbarrow, thank you. Second. Mrs. Beeger, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously. If you have any liaison or conference reports, please pass them to Mrs. Carey at this time. Does anybody need any coverage for any upcoming meetings? Nope, good. Dr. Martzloff, would you like to give us your review of the 2018-2019 proposed school budget, please?
Thank you, Mr. Lemay. I'll be talking about the budget this evening. It will be in front of our voters in 12 days. Certainly, we are, as a school district here in Williamsville, always focused on continuous improvement by asking 3 essential questions. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And how can we do it better? And this comes into play in every realm of our school district, from teaching and learning to the operations to the administration and leadership, professional development, student support. Everything that we do, we want to improve and get better. So what does this budget accomplish? It maintains the current level of academic and extracurricular programming. It has a tax levy increase that is below the state-imposed cap. It adds instructional supports for students, such as academic intervention services. It increases professional development for teachers by adding an instructional coach. It strengthens administrative support at the elementary and high schools, and also enhances school safety and security efforts across the school district. So looking at our program continuation, our employee salaries, BOCES, Social Security, health insurance, exceptional education and student services, we're adding some additional classes for our continuum of services, and student transportation add up to just over $5.4 million. We also looking at some program support considerations, and I mentioned these a moment ago, but adding an instructional coach, AIS services, implementing changes to the administrative makeup at the elementary and high schools, and increasing professional development across the district, all for a total of $475,000. We received some additional state aid right around the time of the passing of the New York State budget on March 31st of $333,479. As we discussed at previous board meetings, we wanted to focus on school safety and security efforts, so we are embarking on a security audit. We are adding a K-12 behavioral specialist who will assist with professional development and behavioral interventions for our teachers and students across the district. And then we are going to begin our investment in physical security upgrades. Our revenue budget, our base budget for 17-18 was a little over $186 million. We're experiencing a state aid increase of almost $2 million. Our tax levy increase of $2,697,000 and a sales tax increase of $50,000 for a proposed revenue budget of $190,815,689. What makes up the revenue budget? Our property tax levy, as it normally does, takes up about 65% of the revenue. State aid is a little over 22%, and then there are a number of other smaller items that make up our revenue for our school district. So back to our expense budget. We again started with 17-18 base budget of $186,135,210. Our program continuation efforts were $5,422,000. Our program support items being $475,000. We added the $333,479 to enhance security efforts, and then we deducted $1,550,000 from our salary savings due to retirements across the district. So our expense budget is, as it normally is, focused on instruction. Almost 60% of the dollars are focused there. Employee benefits, up until a couple of years ago, was a rising proportion of this budget, at a little over 20%, and then a number of other smaller items for support across the district. So our 2018-19 adopted budget by our Board of Education is $190,815,689. That's a budget-to-budget increase of a little over $4.6 million, and our estimated tax levy increase of 2.24%, which is below the New York State tax cap. What does this mean for a $1,000 of assessed valuation? The town of Amherst would be $17.16, town of Clarence $17.15, and town of Cheektowaga $17.12. These rates have declined since the townwide reassessment that took place over the last year. So for town of Amherst school tax bill, we usually go by the $150,000 as our example. We estimate that to increase by $43 a year for that amount of assessed value. What happens if people vote the budget down at the election time? Under state law, school boards can submit a budget to voters a maximum of 2 times. So if the board is defeated 2 times, the board must adopt what's called a contingent budget with a 0% tax levy increase. So we would have to reduce $2,697,000 from the budget in order to provide our community with a 0% budget. So the contingent budget amount is $188,118,689. Your vote counts. We hope to see everyone in our community there from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesday, May 15th in the North High School Gymnasium. And we hope people will come out and let their voices be heard. Thank you. Questions, comments?
Mr. Mecca.
The figures on page 7 with respect to the increases per $1,000 of assessed valuation, there must be an error in that slide, I believe, right?
Why did you say that?
My taxes would more than double, I think, at that rate. Was that supposed to be per $100,000 of assessed valuation?
No, per 1,000.
Mr. Mecca, I think it's a calculation. It's not an increase. So that number you would take and calculate out, say your home is worth $150,000, you would take that $17 and whatever times $150,000 or 150, and that would give
that's
you
not
the
an
full
increase.
tax rate.
That's-
Correct. That's
oh,
not
okay.
right. That's the
gotcha.
full tax.
Okay.
Except for you at your house, isn't it?
No, good. No, I got you. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Process that myself.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Actually, I have one question.
Oh yes, Mrs. Leatherborough.
About the budget as it is about the brochure that goes out. Now, are we required by law to mail something out to everybody? Is that why we do
We
it?
are supposed to inform our community, yes.
Okay. I was just curious, and I apologize, I didn't think of it till now. What does it cost to publish and send this out to the entire community? Ballpark?
It's all done internally, so we're using our staff time, which saves us a lot of money. The only thing is the printing cost, and we send it out bulk rate, so we save money there. Again, I can get you the number. I don't have it here today, but I can get you that.
Okay. No, I was just curious, as we move into the future, at what point do we stop using paper, and using other methods?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of things the state requires to be actually physically mailed. And we've tried that with posting things on our website for certain bids, And in even the advertisement for the vote, it's not legal for us not to put it in the two appropriate approved newspapers.
Okay.
And we've asked that question to the state and had a legal opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, that's why at the beginning of my question, I asked, is it something regarding the law? Thank you very much.
Great. Any other questions?
I do have one.
Yes, Mrs. Van Cise.
Dr. Martzoff, just a rough estimate, I guess. Let's say that this budget was ever voted down and we had to go to a contingent budget. What things would be at risk that we've tried to implement in this budget that we would not be able to follow through on?
Well, certainly the new additions, including the instructional coaching, academic intervention services, changing to administration, the school safety enhancements that we're doing. But you'd have to look beyond that to get to such a large number of a reduction. You'd most likely be looking at things like class size increases, the reduction of elective courses across the district, the potential reduction of extracurricular activities and field trips and things that are generally very positive for our student population.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Great. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the 5-year extension of the school bus transportation contracts as presented? Mr. Mecca, thank you. Is there a second? Dr. McClary, is there any discussion? Mr. Mecca.
I'd just like to thank Mr. Matursky, I suppose, was involved in this, along with Dr. Martzloff, and I think you guys did a great service to the district to kick this forward 5 years. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other comments?
I want to say thank you to Mr. Matursky. He really led the way and did all of the work to make it happen. It's certainly something that's going to help our district going forward, as many districts, when they switch bus companies, they end up getting hit with increases that are over $1 million. So thank you, Mr. Matursky.
And going last, I'll say the exact same thing, just ditto. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We will now hold a public hearing on the proposed budget for the community. If there's anyone that would like to address the board about the budget, if so, please come to the podium now, state your name and address, and please sign in.
I'll sign in later. My name is Michael Littman. I reside at 142 Autumn View in Williamsville. And having worked on budgets before, I just want to commend the board, Mr. Matursky and the staff, Dr. Martzloff, for putting all of this together. I thought it was well done. The $2 million increase in state aid is always good. As I've said before, when I was on the board and in front of the board, I always have concerns when a big amount of cost savings is done through teacher retirements, because, you know, our teachers, especially the ones who've been here for many years, bring so much to the district. I know we've had historically incentives. I know this year we did not. But to see many of the, you know, veteran teachers leave is always a problem in the classroom and in the buildings. It may save us money economically, but there's other issues. The other things I'd like to commend you on, the enhanced school safety allocation. The state did allocate $333,479, and I believe you used that wisely. The last thing I just want to bring up, because buses and that has always intrigued me. I know that we have to budget for gasoline costs and some of those other things. As part of that, and everything I hear more recently says the price of gasoline is going to go up and keep going up, and just want to make sure that that was all taken into account. But other than that, I commend all of you.
Mr. Lemon, where's your school bus?
It's in my thing. It's in my. It's by my seat. I didn't drive it here. It's just sitting there.
Dr. Martzloff, do you have a response, question on the fuel cost increase?
Yes, we are prepared for the increase, and we are well positioned for this coming school year with the budget as adopted by the board. So, thank you, Dr. Lemon.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Great, thank you. Wow. Another record board meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the special board meeting and public hearing for the budget? Mrs. Leatherborough, is there a second? Dr. Venator, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Our next board meeting will be May the 22nd at 7 p.m. here in District Office. Thank you. And we'll recess for 30 minutes and then start the candidates night.
Good evening, everyone.
No, that's just here for me.
Welcome to Candidates Night.
Okay.
My name is Ron Schubert. I am this year's president of Williamsville PTSA Council. Our organization consists of members representing the 13 individual school, PTA, and PTSA units in the Williamsville School District, and SEPSA, the district-wide special education parent-teacher organization. We work together to provide unifying strength and a channel of communication between parents, teachers, students, school district administrators, the school board, and the community. Part of our function in this role is to host Candidates Night, which provides an opportunity for the community to listen to and ask questions of candidates for the Williamsville School Board. Tonight, we have present 7 candidates running for 3 seats on the school board. The program will be moderated by Kathleen McCormick. The timekeeper will be Nora Mikes, assisted by Pat Willey, Joan Simmons, and Joan Simon, who will collect and sort questions. All are members of the League of Women Voters. I now turn the program over to Kathleen McCormick, our moderator, who will explain the way the program will be run tonight.
Great, thank you so much. And thanks to all the candidates for coming and for the audience for coming and participating. I just wanted to tell you quickly what the League does. We are a nonpartisan organization. We never support any specific political party or candidate. What we're interested in doing is increasing the public's understanding of major public policy and encouraging people to participate in democracy. So thank you so much for coming. And we welcome both men and women into the League. Go to our website if you'd like to join or find out more about our work. We're going to be having a panel discussion tonight. The way we'll run it is that the audience is going to submit questions. The League ladies are out here with the yellow cards. If you've got a question, write it down on a yellow card and raise it up. One of the ladies will pick it up. The questions, we're going to try to get rid of the redundancy. We won't take any questions that are directed only at one candidate. It's got to be something all the candidates can answer. So keep that in mind as you write your questions. We're going to give 2 minutes to each candidate for an opening statement, and then we'll be going down the table, rotating around, 2 minutes to answer the questions. And then there'll be a final minute for opening statements. I'm sorry, closing statements. Thank you. We'd like you to hold applause if there is any so that we can run on time. And remember that there is no time for rebuttal. This is not a debate. People are just going to answer questions so you can hear what they've got to say about specific issues. Okay, if we are ready, so we're going to give, for the timekeeping, Nora's going to give you a 30-second warning with the yellow panel, and then the red stop. You can finish your sentence, but then please stop. All right. Okay, Mr. Campo, if you'd like to begin.
Hi, I'm Robert Campo. It was wonderful the way parents, teachers, and administrators worked together for our petition for crossing guards for Transit Middle School. I was the PTSA president for Williamsville East that put together the successful petition of 1,100 parents, teachers, students. The cooperation can make good things happen. I was honored to be named National Science Education Ambassador by NASA for my classes in astronomy at ECC and for the creation of gifted science programs for younger children. It's been a pleasure to work with teachers, parents, and administrators on the Williamsville Curriculum Council and on the Bus Transportation and Student Safety Committee. I have taught energetic, prospective teachers at Buffalo State, Deauville, and Medaille. If elected, I would like to have a rule that school board pay closer attention to administrative costs, explore ways to save money on teacher recertification programs, and bring more foreign language choices to the district. Most of all, I want to listen to parents and return more decision-making to parents in a transparent manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dawn Fletch. First, I would like to thank the PTSA for sponsoring this event and the League of Women Voters for moderating. I've lived in this district for 13 years. I grew up in Orchard Park, went to Orchard Park schools, but when I was getting ready to start a family after much research, I knew Williamsville was where I wanted to be. I feel fortunate that my kids have the opportunity to be part of this district. I earned my bachelor's degree from Buffalo State College. I started out going to school for education, but my sophomore year, I ended up switching majors. I've always loved school, learning, education, and everything about it. I couldn't wait to get involved once my daughter started school. It started out that I volunteered for parties and different events. I was a room parent, and before I knew it, I was elected the treasurer of Dodge Elementary, PTA. After doing this for 2 years, I was elected to be the co-president for 2 more years. And I loved getting to know the teachers and administration, the families and the kids, and most importantly, listening to everyone's opinion on improvements, fundraisers, and different ideas that they had. My whole career has been in the human resources arena. I love people, and developing and maintaining relationships is one of my strongest assets. I managed a division of a staffing agency for 5 years. From there, I went to the Buffalo News for almost 14, and for the last 2, I've been at AP Professionals, which is a staffing firm in Williamsville. I deal with candidates and clients, and sometimes you have to ask tough questions to get to the root of a problem. I'm not afraid to ask hard questions and then listen actively to the issues at hand. I would like to utilize these skills and share my experiences to contribute to continuing and enhancing a nurturing and child-focused learning environment. If elected, I would like to build and invest in music, arts, and foreign language programs. I think it's so important for our children to be well-rounded, and I do look forward to you getting to know me better, what I stand for, and what I can bring to the board. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Lippman?
I'm a kind and caring person who stands up for my beliefs. My passion and purpose is quality education in a safe environment. I was first elected to the board in 2006, and in the 3 times I was elected, I was honored to receive the largest number of votes from this community, which speaks to the issue of common educational values. I served 2 terms as board president. I'm here to make a difference in Williamsville education. I greatly appreciate this opportunity to talk about my accomplishments and contributions to our children's success as a strong advocate for children. The election is not about me, but about the we. What do we need? We need a strong board with people who have a history of advocating for children through activities such as leadership in PTSA and previous Board of Education documented contributions. I have greater experiences than the other candidates. I have a long history of accomplishments for our students, and that should be considered. I've been a student-focused educator for more than 40 years, although some people say I still look 40. I spent 7 years as a high school teacher and coach, and 32 years at Buffalo State, 9 years as a chair of the largest department business. In 2015, I was awarded the Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Teaching, and I think that our district need to focus more on college preparation. My actions have always been to improve our education, to advocate for students, to support our teachers while focusing on the needs of the community. The biggest contributions I have made is the well-being of areas student nutrition, supporting music, arts, and athletics. We started a women's ice hockey team, women's modified volleyball, and I strongly support United Sports for our special ed students. I supported our capital improvement projects for athletic fields, technology, and buildings. I supported LOAP and recycling. I am proud of the enhanced academic and mental health support we have provided, including suicide prevention. For our teaching professionals, I have assisted in enhancing their professional development funding, retaining teachers in a time of retrenchment, and other teacher-focused strategies, expanding programs that hired more teachers, and we need board members who focus on students first, and I am one of those.
Thank you. Ms. Vasquez.
Hi, I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. I am an entrepreneur, a wife, and a mother of 4. I have a Six Sigma certification from Villanova University, graduated from the Women's Campaign School at Yale University. I earned an MBA from Medaille and a BA from the University of Buffalo. I'm the Chief Systems Officer for G Health Enterprises, a conglomerate of 8 individual companies. I also serve on various boards and committees, including the Buffalo Niagara Convention Center and the Buffalo Zoo. I currently serve as the first and only African American and former president of the Waynesville Central School District Board of Education. On this board, I have taken on unpopular positions. I have been the lone vote, 8-1 vote on important issues affecting our district. I support safety. I support best practice learning. I support diversity, inclusion, acceptance, and fiscal oversight. I consider all sides and promote a rational perspective of fairness even when the issues are not well liked, which is extremely difficult. Standing alone on any issue can be trailblazing and invigorating as well as absolutely terrifying, but I am comforted knowing that no matter what, I am standing up for what I believe is right at the time. And I have done that like no other before me because, quite frankly, most people are not equipped for that journey. I have an unfaltering integrity, and I will never fall prey to any puppeteer, no matter how enticing the carrot. I did not receive the WTA endorsement this year because I adamantly refused to be their puppet. Although I was in favor of an independent and impartial investigation, I was never on board for a coup. And when I refused, I became a foe of the WTA leadership. After the outcome of the recent 3028 decision and vindication of Dr. Marsloff, I thought that our district would move in a positive direction. I was wrong. There remains an element of deceit and maliciousness led by the WTA president. After I cited her ill intentions from the very start of this horrific ordeal, she began a campaign to unseat me. It is a torturous logic for the NBA. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. LeMay.
Good evening. I'm a 3-year incumbent. I'm currently the president of the board and have also served as the vice president. As a business owner of 17 years, people would think that I didn't have a good understanding of how the system works. But thankfully, I married a teacher, and with her came 2 sister-in-laws, a brother-in-law, a father-in-law, all educators. I'm a parent of 2 children in the Williamsville schools, and with my youngest daughter currently attending junior here at Williamsville South. Since being elected, I have attended many educational trainings, workshops, law conferences, various board and other political events wrapped around education, all to better understand my role as trustee and make a better educated, sound decision. I'm proud to say that in the past 3 years, I've had a track record of commitment by attending every community forum, missing only 2 board meetings in the past 3 years, attending all but a few school visits, and numerous other opportunities. So what I have accomplished over the past 3 years is we worked on improving communication with community, teachers, administrators, and staff. On our new turf fields, we listened to the community, put in safer fill material, improved lighting, and fair use rules that all could agree upon. We brought back recess and reduced class sizes in all of our elementary schools, and we've put pressure on the state, and I want to continue to put pressure on them when it comes to excessive state testing, curriculums, unfair evaluations, and testing systems, as well as unfunded mandates and laws. When it comes to security, my goal is to make meaningful enhancements. We need to concentrate not only on physical security, but mental and emotional well-being of our students and teachers. For special education, I'd like to work with parents, teachers, staff, and determine how we can do better. Change the culture of no to a mindset of let's find a way to make it happen. Under music renovation, I'd like us to do what we did for our sports facilities and now look at our music programs and do something comparable. and then, of course, to continue to provide fiscally responsible budgets. Tackling these issues will help keep the education of students as the top priority not only now in the present, but going forward in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Borenstein.
Thank you. Hello. It's nice to meet everyone tonight, and my thanks to the PTSA and League of Women Voters for hosting this opportunity to introduce myself to you. I am a longtime resident of Williamsville. We've been on North Forest Road for almost 25 years. I'm the proud parent of a South graduate. She's here tonight. Corey, hello. Corey is a product of the Forest Mill South track. And we have benefited as a family from her experience. I am a retired performing arts executive. I ran professional symphony orchestras in my as a living, and I will be the only candidate, and in fact the only board member with a music and arts professional background. And hopefully, if I'm honored to be elected, I will be the leading advocate for music and arts in our district, or on the board. It's especially important this year as we consider a capital improvement initiative to address some performing arts spaces in our high schools. But my primary motivation, first and foremost, is to ensure that all current and all future students receive and benefit from the same quality education that our daughter received. This also has the added benefit of ensuring that Williamsville continues to be the premier community to live, work, and raise a family. And I look forward to answering your questions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mecca.
Thank you. Hi, I would like to thank Ron Schubert and the PTSA Council along with the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I am Mark Mecca, and I am running for re-election to the Williamsville School Board. Education is transformative, has the ability to improve lives, and is the most important thing we do as a society. In Williamsville, we have amazing educational opportunities available for our students that we all should be proud of. I am running for re-election to continue to support our teachers and administrators as they provide excellent educational opportunities for our students. I currently work as an educator and believe that my experience in education has prepared me to make high-quality decisions as a school board member. In addition to providing great educational programming, in the past 3 years on the board, we have been fiscally responsible and have presented 3 balanced budgets that fall within the tax cap and keep the tax rate increases below the cost of inflation. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology from Canisius College, a master's degree in educational psychology from Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania, and another master's degree from Canisius College in educational administration. I have certification as a school psychologist, school building leader, school district leader, and school district business leader. I will be honored to serve on the board for another 3 years and hope that you will lend me your support by voting for me in the upcoming election on May 15th, in addition to voting yes for the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready to begin the questions, and we're going to start the first question with Dr. Campo, and then the second question, Ms. Fletch will have get to answer first, and we'll rotate around. So everybody gets a chance to be first, everybody will get a chance to be last. Okay. The first question is, what experience do you have to be a Board of Education member?
I'm New York State certified as a physics teacher, biology teacher, general science teacher, social studies teacher, principal, and school district leader. I have interned for an assistant superintendent, actually that was the assistant superintendent for Amherst schools. I've interned for a principal in a private school. I've sat on a board for St. Peter and Paul School in Williamsville. I've taught for 25 years, mostly college teaching, but I've also taught middle school teaching. I've taught gifted science courses, at middle school. At the college level, I've taught physics, biology, and astronomy. My astronomy course was given a special award by NASA, and I was designated the National Science Education Ambassador. I've taught teacher training courses at Buffalo State, D'Youville, and Medaille. I've worked within the Williamsville District on the Curriculum Council. I've worked in the Williamsville District on the Bus Transportation and Safety Board. I've gotten to know the district well. I have 3 children that have gone through the system. My oldest just was admitted to Cornell, showing you how good this system is. And that's all I have.
Okay, Ms. Fletch.
That's all. That's all you have. I'm a mom, and as I mentioned before, I have been very involved in Dodge and in our PTA. I am the type of person that, first of all, I'm very committed. I'm honest, transparent, and I will work hard at anything that I do, but especially when it comes to children education, it truly is my passion. And I just really am, what you see is what you get with me. Again, I pride myself on that, my honesty. So I am committed to, if elected, to attending meetings, asking questions, and learning. No, I've never been on the board before, but I'm not afraid to ask questions, and if I don't know something, certainly look to other people to help. That's it.
That's great. Thank you. Dr. Lippman.
Okay, well, what makes me have experience? I think experience is the best teacher. I have spent 9 years on the board up to 2015. The budget's focus is on policy and budgeting and making sound decisions. So I want to join the board again because I enjoy the contributions. My background, my PhD from Ohio State University, part of it was in educational administration, so I am certifiable up to a school superintendent, if I so desire. But I think a big part of it is having leadership. Leadership is about having a vision. Leadership is about having an ethical composition. And I think leaders need to be able to listen, to follow through on their decisions. Remember, a decision is based on the information you have at one point in time. Over time, your decisions, and when you look at things, may change. But historically, I've worked with teachers. I've been a classroom teacher and coach at the high school level. I've worked with unions. I serve on a union executive board at Buffalo State. And I believe my background experience is perfect for what needs to be done here.
Thank you. Ms. Vasquez.
Yes, thank you. I am a mother of 4. All 4 of my children attended Williamsville Central School District schools. So I've been a parent in this district because my oldest is 27, my youngest is 11. I know it's big gap, it's Mr. Surprise at the end, but I've been a parent in this district for over 24 years, consistently for 24 consecutive years. I served on this board for the last 6 years, served as president for 1 year. I'm very experienced and very knowledgeable. I add a degree of diversity to the board that's much needed on the board, not only diversity of background and culture and race, but also a diversity of thought. I think differently. I propose different ideas to the board, and I think that I will be beneficial and a great addition to the board in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. LeMay, yes, sorry.
Thank you. Well, I'm a business owner for the past 22 years here in the Williamsville area, so that gives me a lot of experience with finance and budget. I'm also part of a multi-generational family. My wife, sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, father-in-law are all education teachers themselves. Multi-generation that's gone through the school district, including my own 2 children that have gone through the district here. I've worked myself hard at getting educated and understanding the role as being a trustee. 3 years ago when I was elected, my credentials at the time were understanding what the community was asking for, as well as, understanding business and finance. Since then, after being elected, I took great pride in attending just about every educational opportunity that I've had, from New York State School Board Association's 2 to 3 day long conferences around the state, to Erie County Association of School Boards miscellaneous trainings, half day, day long. There's been law conferences focused on education. There have been other miscellaneous board conferences. So I've taken every opportunity to make sure that I understand the issues, as well as discussing them with various politicians and stuff. Lastly, I would say that I've been an avid listener with the community. And one of the things that we worked on hard when we first got on the board was to establish a way of two-way communication, the community forums, where people could come out and actually tell the board, this is what we think, and why do you think? And we were able to better educate ourselves and take that feedback back to the board table and make very educated decisions with that. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Borenstein.
Thank you. Well, it seems to me that there are two components that contribute to being a successful board member. There are probably many others, but two that I think are really important, and that is to be passionate about something, and in this case, to be passionate about education and about our community. On that side, I have been a longtime resident of Williamsville. I am married to Carol Ann Fabian, who is a native of Williamsville, and we have benefited from our life here in this wonderful town. In my work as an arts administrator, I was passionate about making sure that education was part of our mission. Not just what we did, but part of our mission. And so I've been working for really decades, ensuring that children in communities wherever I was was exposed to great quality of education in the community. And the other side of the coin is understanding the mechanics of what it means to be a successful board member. And again, as my role as an arts administrator in the nonprofit world, I interacted with boards all the time. In fact, I served on many board committees, including finance, community engagement, and others. And it was through that work that I really honed my skills as to what it takes to be a successful board member. Since retiring, I've put those skills to work at other organizations here in our community. I am a passionate woodworker and musician, and so I've sought out a wonderful organization here in our community called the Tool Library, and I am on the board as their first finance director. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mecca.
I love going last. Can we keep doing this? It's great.
You get to be
Listen
first.
to everybody's answers, and I can make them my own. Seriously, though, Mr. Borenstein's division of the what makes a great board member, I like that framework, the passion and the mechanics. As I was thinking about what to say to this issue, I care deeply about education. It's the most important thing our society does. It's my day-to-day work. I'm a school psychologist in the Buffalo schools. It's my professional training. I was trained as an elementary teacher initially, and then a school psychologist, and then a school administrator. Some of my training, I think, helps with some of the financial aspects. I'm a school district business leader in terms of my certifications, and I think that helps me to understand the finances of the school district. I think, so we talked about passion. Now, with respect to mechanics, while anybody here, if they're elected, I'm sure will do a good job, I have some of the experience with the mechanics of the job already as a 3-year veteran and spending 1 year as vice president of the school board. There's a lot to learn, and there's a learning curve that goes along with it, and I will hit the ground running, so to speak, because I've already been there and done that for the past 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder that if there are any more questions, we've got people in the back to take them. Just write it down on a yellow card. Okay, so the second question will begin with Ms. Fletch. How well do you see yourself working alongside the other members currently on the board?
As I mentioned earlier, I think one of my strongest assets, skill sets, whatever you want to call it, is developing relationships. And in every job that I've ever had, most of it has been, in the sales world. I'm always given maybe the clients that other people just haven't had luck with, because I can tend to get along with anybody. I don't see that being a problem. Well, can you repeat the question again? I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. That was it, right?
Sure. Yeah. How well do you see yourself working alongside the other members currently on the board?
Yeah, no, that's it.
Well, thank you. I've always gotten along well with different people. And I know most of the people on this board because some of them are my Facebook friends, some of them I've talked to through the years, some I've run against through the years. So I know them. I think, I've observed meetings. I know how they work together. I think I can fit right in. They're, a diverse or interesting group of people who have different ideas. And I've worked with a variety of people. I've talked to a variety of people. I've talked to all the people on the board. So I wouldn't have any issue fitting in. I served on the board 9 years with a variety of different rotating personalities. So I don't have an issue.
Okay, Ms. Vasquez.
Yes, hi. I've served on the board for the last 6 years. The board dynamics, the board composition has changed over those years. Almost every year we've gotten a new board member, or 2 or 3 new board members. So I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of personalities. And we do fine. Our current board construct, I think we don't always agree on everything, but we have mutual respect for each other most times. And when we don't, we can come back to the table and discuss that. So I think we get along quite fine, and I think we'll get along quite well in the future.
Mr. LeMay.
I don't know how you can answer this question wrong, but not that I'm going to try. Well, I'll start with that I've been a business owner. I mentioned for 22 years. And being a business owner, you get to wear multiple hats and play multiple roles. So I've played actively. I've had to be in sales. I've done billing. I've done customer service. And probably the most difficult hat to wear is tech support, which is when somebody calls you, it may not be your fault, but they're angry, they're upset, they're agitated, and you have to calm them down and figure out what the problem is and come up with a solution. So it's given me a great, vast experience in dealing with various backgrounds. And I do have a successful company. It's now, this particular company is 18 years old, so I'm doing something right. I have been the board, or currently am the board president. I have been the vice president. And to get elected at the table means that you're having to listen to the different concerns and the issues and the dilemmas, and be open to changing your opinion and being able to see both sides of a story and understand the concerns that are being addressed to you, and being empathetic with those concerns. And of course, having mutual respect, and realizing that everybody's background has got some merit behind it. There's a reason why they believe in what they believe in. And taking that and being able to form that and work with people, I feel has been one of my strongest characteristics. So,
Thank you. Mr. Borenstein.
Thank you. Running a large nonprofit organization has similar attributes to a school district, in that there are hundreds of passionate people who are engaged in the mission of what you're working on. So it was through my experience running large symphony orchestras that I honed some skills to help me manage hundreds of relationships at the same time, and all types of passionate personalities as well. And it has worked out extremely well for me. I think my personality is kind of set up this way. And I feel that it's that experience that will help me to manage our board and the many stakeholders that have interest in what we do as a board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mecca.
I think a lot of people have said the key points to this issue, are civility and mutual respect. I know, being on the board for the last 3 years, that I've disagreed with various board members about issues, and I think we have wonderful people on the board, and I'm sure the candidates that are running for the board are also wonderful people. We listen to each other, and at the end of the day, if we don't agree, we can still be friends or like each other at the very least and say, hey, we're okay, it's okay to disagree. I don't think anybody takes anything too personally, and that's important. There really isn't much conflict on the current board in terms of, aside from spirited debate on issues, but it doesn't go beyond that.
And Dr. Campo.
Every semester, I get a new set of fresh students, and we have to build relationships all over again. It's fun meeting new people every semester. It's a challenge meeting new people every semester, but it's part of the process of education. We all, whether we work in a business or work in education, meet people, deal with diverse issues, deal with diverse opinions, and try to find out answers, even if you're coming from a different standpoint. And it's important for people to know how to provide evidence, support your position, listen to others. It's very important that a school board member listen. We have to listen to the community. We have to listen to everyone. We have to listen to parents. We have to listen to teachers. We have to listen to each other. And that's what makes the board work. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin the next round of questions with Dr. Lippman. What would you do to improve the budget?
Let's see, I have the budget right here. As I mentioned at the board hearing about an hour ago, I thought that the budget was done well, having put together or worked on 9 budgets along the way. I know the complexity of it, and you have to look at a variety of issues. The only comment I made, which was addressed by Mr. Matursky and Dr. Motzloff, related to transportation allocation of funding and how, since there's a cost of gas increase, how will that be covered? But again, I would always say make sure we allocate money for student services. And I think that, I would always say I'd like to see more done in student mental health, school safety and security. But I think with the money they had and how they balanced this all out, I thought they did fine. So I commend you all.
Thank you.
I commend you.
Thank you.
Ms. Vasquez.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
What would you do to improve the budget?
I think, I agree with Dr. Lippman that our budget is well intact this year. We maintained current level academic and extracurricular programming, and we've added, safety enhancements to our schools because of added funding that we received from New York State. It's very difficult. Sometimes people from the outside looking in would think that we have a lot of discretionary spending when it comes to the school budget, when in fact most of it is mandated already, and it's already allocated for salaries, for health insurance, for security, for things that we don't have. We're not able to manipulate very easily. So for what we had to do, for what we had to work with, I think we did an extraordinary job of the continuation of services in our district, and I'm proud of the budget this year.
Thank you. Mr. Lemay.
Well, as one of the three existing board members, I can't speak for all three of us, but I've got to say I think the present board has spent a lot of time trying our best to be frugal with the budget and looking at anywhere that we could cut costs, working with the district, Mr. Matursky, and the superintendent. We've done what we can. We've looked to extend and renew contracts that made sense to us. For example, this evening we extended a transportation contract because, unlike other districts that have taken steep increases in costs, we were able to renegotiate at a lower rate because the contract was not up yet. So we're constantly keeping an eye to the future and looking for ways to improve and continue to save. But as Mrs. Vasquez said, mandates are mandates, and oftentimes the state does not fund these mandates. So we're looking at areas that we have to either make cuts or maintain or increase, and we look at various revenue sources for that. I joke with a lot of people and say, the ultimate goal, at least for me, would be to have a 1-to-1 ratio student to educator. Obviously, to do a budget like that would be outrageously expensive. But we do in what we can, and we do the best we can with the funds that we're allotted, and I think we do an exceptionally well job at that. There's areas we'd love to improve on. There's, me personally, for example, I'd love to continue to see us reduce class sizes. I'd love to see us introduce more foreign languages at younger ages and offer more foreign languages, but all of these things come at a cost. And we look at those annually to see where we can try and squeeze those things in, and other concerns and academic improvements that the community has brought to us, and we weigh that with the current budget. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Borenstein.
Thank you. As a relative newcomer to this world, I am really looking forward to getting into this question very specifically, because as an arts administrator, this is a critical issue to sustain the mission of the organization that you run. We have a responsibility to ensure that we are fiscally responsible, that we take care of our own, that we make sure that the programs and services are delivered in an excellent fashion. And so from my own perspective, I have sat in on a few board meetings, including the budgeting meeting, and I was very impressed with Dr. Martzloff's presentation and the board's handling of the budgeting discussion. And I am really looking forward to putting my own 2 cents, as it were, into the process as we go forward.
Thank you. Mr. Mecca.
Okay, so by definition of law, school district budgets have to be balanced. You cannot spend more than you take in. So the critical goal of the school board is to make sure that your dollars are spent as wisely as possible so that you can gain efficiencies to direct them to the classroom, instructional programs, art programs, music programs, sports programs, anything that benefits the students in terms of their overall education. So one of the things that I would like to see as a board member us do is we already do focus quite a bit on efficiencies, and we've done pretty well with energy efficiencies and upgrades, and we've done pretty well with, as Mr. Lemay mentioned, extending the bus contract for 5 years. That's huge, because every board member I've talked to in every other district is getting hit with big increases on the transportation budget when they renegotiate contracts. So we did very well to kick that down the road, thanks to Mr. Matursky and Superintendent Martzloff on that one. But one area that we really don't focus on enough, I think, is trying to bring in more revenue. I see Michael Schmidt out there in the audience. There, he's got his hand up. He likes the idea, and I like it too, of selling off properties that that have no value to us in the future potentially. That's one way of increasing revenue, and then increasing recurring revenue as those properties become taxable in the future at maybe a higher rate. Another area to look at, I think, is obsolete goods. Right now, we just throw these things out. There are things that perhaps are worth some amount of money to somebody, and then that would give us more money to spend on programs and instructional support, instruction, and all of those good things that everybody mentioned.
Thank you. Dr. Campo.
I have to agree with Dr. Littman about increasing student services, mental health, and student safety. I think that should be a priority for next year's budget. I'd also like to add the guidance offices. Guidance offices in all 3 high schools close before the kids get off the bus. So if they all close at 3 and the kids get off the bus at 3:30, there's no one to call when the kid gets home, and there's emails and there's mail in the mailbox for the student who's applying to colleges, and he has to wait or she has to wait until the following day to get a hold of guidance, or they email guidance and no one is there to answer until the following day. It would be very nice to have one guidance officer on a rotational basis stay an extra hour until 4 o'clock so that there's coverage when the children get off the bus. Issues happen, things happen, they get home, the mail is sitting there, applications need answering, and it's good if there's someone, a friendly voice on the other side that knows about the situation. I'd also like to see more foreign language choices, and I'd like to see foreign languages start as early as possible. There's so much educational research on starting foreign languages at younger ages, not just 6th grade or 5th grade, but all the way down to 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade. The children are like sponges and they enjoy it. I think it would be a big help if we can budget these things. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Fletch.
Yes, thanks. I really started looking at the budget a couple years ago. The more involved I got and more questions I had, and Tony mentioned discretionary. I think you do think of that as an outsider, like, oh, look, there's all this money. What? Until you really start seeing where all of the money is going, it's very interesting to me, and I do look forward to learning more about that. Somebody, as far as the bus contract, that's another thing maybe to look at. All of the contracts, is there a way to put them up for an RFP to see if you can get better rates for different things. And just one thing that I would like to see too, to piggyback off of what Dr. Campos said, is just I think Mr. Schmidt, that you mentioned in the audience, was one of the people that helped get the foreign languages back in earlier, and I would like to see it even earlier than 5th grade, what we have too. So thanks.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Vasquez will begin the next round. Do you support the direction of the superintendent and a contract extension?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to elaborate?
I've been on this board for 6 years. Most of that time I spent fighting. Well, a lot of that time I spent fighting with the superintendent regarding different issues, fighting with my board regarding different issues concerning an impartial independent investigation that the WTA was advocating for. After the 3028 hearing and the outcome of that decision, I thought that Dr. Marsloff was vindicated, and I thought that we should move forward as a district. I think that it's time to move forward. I think we need to look at what positive contributions Dr. Marsloff has made to this district and how we are moving in such an extraordinary pathway toward continued great services for children in Williamsville. So yes, I support Dr. Marsloff. I support an extension to his contract.
Thank you. Mr. Lemay.
Question really needs to focus, I think, more on evaluation of the superintendent. If the evaluation of the superintendent is efficient, highly efficient, then yes, the superintendent is warrant of a contract extension or renegotiation of a contract. But the problem with the question is that there has not been a standard from the board's perspective for the last several years on an evaluation system. And what I mean by that is, in prior years, a score of a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 0 was issued on various categories for the superintendent. And that did not come with a definition of what a 4 meant, what a 0 meant, what a 1 meant, or excuse me, a 2 or a 3 meant. So it became difficult for 9 board members with different diversities and different backgrounds to come to a consensus that put everybody on par evaluating the superintendent equally in the same way. I can say from a board's perspective this past year, we've gone into a new direction where we're using a new product that does just that. Uses various guidelines and looks for consistencies on how he's doing and the supporting evidence that allows. And it's a all year long process that the superintendent can be feeding information into and self-evaluating. And then the boards get to review and see this evidence and then can grade appropriately. But what makes it powerful is that it explains what every definition means. If we were to give improvement under a category, it defines what that looks like. If we were to give efficient, it defines specifically what that looks like. So now that a board is all on the same page giving an evaluation, I support the results of that evaluation to go towards a contract extension or not.
Thank you. Dr. Bornstein. I'm sorry, Mr. Bornstein.
Thank you. You just made my mother very happy. This is the first time that I've campaigned for elected office, and it's a really interesting process when you go door to door and introduce yourself to your neighbors in the community. And the thing that I took away from all of those experiences was that there were no red-hot issues that were expressed to me in the community about the handling of the school district business. So that's a tribute to the current board, and it's certainly a tribute to the current leadership. So while I bring with me some experiences about how to evaluate the executive, I look forward to working with the other board members to make sure that there's a rigorous self-examination involved in the process, that there's a legitimate series of ways that we do evaluate the executive and work together to ensure that that executive is doing the job that he or she is meant to be doing. And in this particular case, I have been very impressed with what I've heard from the community about Dr. Martzloff.
Thank you. Mr. Mecca.
So the board has one employee, and that's the superintendent, and it's our job to evaluate the superintendent. I will say that in thinking about this question before it came around to me, I want to let everybody know that we're in the process of evaluating the superintendent now. It's that time of year to do his evaluation, and contract extension is not an issue that we have had a chance to discuss as a board. I personally see this as a personnel matter and think it would be inappropriate for me to make comment in either direction at this point. I do want to mirror some of the statements that Sean made, and Sean's the guy that got us on this super eval system, which is a really more rigorous way, I would say, of evaluating the superintendent than we've done in the past. And I'm appreciative to Sean for bringing that to us, and we're going through this for the first time this year. But the evaluation does lead us in the direction that we're heading one way or the other. But it's a personnel matter, and I don't think it's appropriate to discuss it before we've had a chance as a board in private.
Thank you. And Dr. Campo.
Well, first of all, hiring anyone and rehiring anyone, whether it's a business or education, there has to be set goals, set criteria, measurable rubrics in which you expect certain accomplishments to be made and certain goals to be achieved, certain objectives to be achieved. And they should be in writing. They should be provided to the employee. The employee must see them, understand them, must be able to go over them with the people who will make the decision. Something like this is so important to the community that it should be publicized as to what our goals are, what our objectives are, and how the superintendent will be measured. None of this has been public. If it's been done at all, it's been done behind closed doors. None of us know what the issues have been with the suits between union and the district, and the board must make public what their objectives are, what they have given as instructions for the superintendent, and what criteria he must meet to either be renewed or not to be renewed. None of that has been done, at least not made public. That's all. Thank you.
And Ms. Fletch.
Yes, so I agree, there's two parts to this. Kind of what you said, that I don't really know what the criteria is to evaluate. I can just speak personally now. I have been in this district, I don't know, however many years, and I haven't really had to have that many one-on-one conversations with Dr. Martzloff, but any conversation that I have had with him has always been, he's always willing to talk. His door is open, although he's extremely busy, but he will make his door open. You know, I've had the chance really to get to know him during my time of being on the board, because he does go out and speak to each school. Any dealing that I have ever had has been perfectly great. So I mean, I would be happy to see him extended.
I would say human resource assessment is a complex issue. You know, I have a background in human resources, and I've taught graduate courses in assessment. So it is a complex issue, but cutting to the chase, district policy clearly states how the superintendent is evaluated. I've worked on Dr. Smith when he was superintendent, as well as the beginning part of Dr. Motzloff's career here. So there's two things about it. One is, you know, there's a policy set, and it's nice that, you know, President LeMay has kind of moved some things forward. I was going to say, you know, on the questionnaire style, you know, I'd volunteer to explain or work with you to kind of make that better, but you seem to have found a way. But the key issue really is it has to be done. It has to be done effectively, and the results should be made known. There's a privacy issue in human resource issues, so the data is kind of kept in-house. But the question was, would I extend the contract of Dr. Motzloff based on my experience with him and what I've observed in his professionalism and the dignity he brings to the position in a complex, large district, as any head of any large organization. The basic question is, would I support his, you know, continuation? And I would support Dr. Motzloff's continuation.
Thank you. Mr. LeMay will start the next round of questions. What do you think about smaller class sizes?
Oh, I love the idea. Smaller class sizes. I already mentioned it. If we could afford it, we'd have a one-on-one for everybody. It would be one teacher to one student. I can't begin to tell you about the studies and the information that's available that shows just how well a smaller class size does for a student. for any student. It's easier to manage, it's easier to teach, and it's easier to get through and have more time for discussion and comprehension of students with teachers. I think most of the community that knows me knows that this is one of the things that I constantly advocate for. I mentioned it in my opening speech even that, you know, when budgets allow for it, we need to look at smaller class sizes. I know presently we start to look at issues now where we're starting to run out of room in our buildings. And that's definitely a concern we have to continue to look at and address. But I think the merits of smaller class sizes outweighs just about any other argument.
Thank you. And Mr. Borenstein.
Thank you. I am in favor of smaller class sizes. Data tells us unequivocally that the ideal is Mr. LeMay's 1-to-1. We obviously can't get there, but the extent that we can get as close as possible, I'm completely in favor of that, and look forward to putting my voice behind trying to get to that ideal goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mecca.
Yeah, absolutely ditto is what I would say to that. The research supports that class size, smaller class sizes lead to better student achievement and better student outcomes. We've fortunately had community members that have kind of held our feet to the fire on these issues, which is very important for us to be held accountable to this. The board has guidelines as to how many students can be in each class. And there have been occasions where it looked like certain classes were going to be over, or maybe certain classes were, and that was brought to our attention, and fortunately we were able to address these things before the school year started. But it's critical.
Thank you. And Dr. Campo.
I've taught in giant lecture halls and I've taught in small group seminars. You teach in different ways when you have a large group versus a small group. Small group is very personable and you know all the students in your class. Large group, I don't remember their names. I prefer the small group classes. I think you learn more in a small group than in a large group. But there's advantages to every kind of system. I teach gifted students every morning in small middle school groups, one class of 9 and one class of 11. And I really like the sizes of those classes. Students learn from each other, and if you can break them in groups, it's wonderful. You want class size to be small if you can, but you have to look at affordability. Class size being small is wonderful, and yes, the students get more attention from the instructor. But there's something to be said for 20, 22 in a classroom because of the variety of questions you get from a group that big. Once you get beyond 20, 22, then it becomes harder to give essay questions because then you've got more essays to read. I don't like large classes for middle school or elementary school beyond 20 or 22. I don't think the students get enough attention. I would very much like to see the younger grades have smaller classrooms and the class sizes get a little bit bigger as they get older into high school. But the younger kids should be in the smallest classes that we can afford. Thank you.
Ms. Fletch.
Yes, I am in favor of smaller class sizes, absolutely. Not just for the students, but for the teacher as well. I think especially in the younger grades, having 26 students, I think my daughter had in her kindergarten, and that is a lot of students for any one person. I don't know that I would agree with the 1-to-1, just because I think it's nice to have, maybe 2-to-1, because it's nice to have, I think kids learn from other kids too. You need to have, that you learn from your peers as well, but absolutely in favor of that. Your turn.
Oh,
Dr. Littman.
okay. As we've heard, there's been studies in this area And generic studies on class size and student achievement always point to smaller class sizes up to a point do that. But as hasn't really been said, many of those gains are more in disadvantaged districts than they would be in ours. I would agree that smaller class sizes have value because the interaction with students and teachers in a smaller ratio is better. I just think back when I was a high school teacher, one semester I had 54 students in a class. When I said something to the principal, he said, well, look at the options they had for other teachers. Don't you think it'd be better if you just kept those students? So I trudged on. But the reality is it has to be balanced within the budget of what we can afford to do. And, you know, it is, we've always said, when there's an ability to do that, that's one of the areas our district has looked at, so there's value in that. And just in my view of it, when I schedule my faculty, we have 25 students in upper level elective course and 35 in our required courses. And, you know, I think part of what they need to have in their high school experience maybe is some larger class sizes to help them transition better in the college. At the elementary level, when I was on the board, we worked diligently to reduce class size, and that has great value.
And Ms. Vasquez.
Yes, thank you. I agree with Mr. Mecca now that it's nice being last because you can get everyone's comments.
Yep.
But of course, I agree with all of the candidates tonight because we all agree that class size matters. And the smaller class sizes are very beneficial to our district and to successful learning for all of our students. So of course, I'm an advocate for smaller class sizes, and we continuously look at this as a district. We are continuously evaluating class size, and you know, like Dr. Littman said, we have to maintain structures within our budgetary restraints, but I am very much in favor of this. I attended UB, right? So, and I was an adult, so I wasn't like a third grader, of course, but I was in a lecture hall of 250 or 300 people. It was just very difficult to learn in that type of structure, even as a young adult. And then I went on to Madai for my graduate school, and of course the classes are much smaller. So it makes a difference, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Mr. Bornstein, we'll begin with you for this question.
Sure.
What will you do to help protect and enforce disability rights in education as mandated in the ADA and individual education plans? The question goes on to talk about specific accommodations that could be made, including interpreting, notes, and et cetera.
Yes.
So your thoughts?
Yes. I guess as I'm learning more and more about this very important issue, I'm on the one hand very proud to say that Williamsville School District pays very close attention to the needs of the disability community. And there are programs and services to address that important community already. However, I have to say that as a potential board member, this would be a major interest for me personally, because I think that individuals who do come to a school district and into classrooms who have disabilities really require some very special attention because they have very special needs. And so I believe this is a very important issue. And again, I look very much forward to adding my voice to make sure that Williamsville is as inclusive as it possibly can be as a school district as we go forward. I'm afraid I don't have the specifics that the second half of that question mentioned until I really get more into this area as a board member. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mecca.
Sure. This is kind of right up my alley as a school psychologist. It's a lot of what I do, special education. it's of the utmost importance that we follow the laws and make sure that we are doing right by our most vulnerable population, the students that need the most help and most assistance. From time to time, as board members, we become aware of issues, and we definitely put a strong priority on trying to fix any issue that might exist within our system so that the rights of the disabled are honored and respected.
Thank you. Dr. Campo.
Well, at my classes at Erie Community College, every year I've had people that needed someone to take notes for them. About 2 years ago, I had a blind student. He wasn't just legally blind, he was completely blind. I don't think he saw at all. He happened to be my best student that year. I think I improved my teaching because instead of just showing a picture of Mars, I had to describe everything as vividly as I possibly could, what was on the picture, so that he could visualize it himself. It made me a better teacher. I had to learn how to describe every single item I showed the students. I've had deaf students. Last semester I had a sign language interpreter in my class interpreting for a deaf student. I learned how to be as succinct as I could with my words. Tests at ECC, my tests are translated into many languages. My students take tests in separate rooms in foreign languages that are then translated back for me to read, which is a wonderful service that ECC does. I realize that an individual education plan is extremely important for parents, and I believe that we should do everything we can to keep parents aware and in the loop for everything that's in an individual education plan for the student. And guidance counselors and classroom teachers should communicate with the parents and make sure the parent has a vivid understanding of what's in the plan. Thank you.
So this is such an important issue, and I'm not going to pretend to know, enough about it. What I will say is the experience that I've had thus far at Dodge, I know there's been several students with a variety of different needs, and I don't know, I think we've done a really good job. The school has done a really good job so far, but again, I don't know all of the ins and outs, so I would look forward to learning more about this. I don't want to speak to something that I don't know 100% on.
Thank you. Dr. Lippman.
As we know, the law dealing with disabled students is a law that our district follows. Our district has strongly written policies and strategies to deal with those students. We have a fine group of special education teachers. We have a strong reputation in the community. Dr. Sierri and the staff who works with oversight of that is well regarded all around. Again, the key thing is we need to make sure we accommodate and develop our students, that we involve the parents, the teachers, and the appropriate professionals to deal with those issues. And the idea that, as I've always felt, when we have students who have issues, they should be educated in our schools. My example is when I was on the board before, we worked as a board to bring back students, special needs students who were transported outside the district to be brought back into our district to be taught by, our teachers in our schools. And I think that's the most important thing, is to educate students as well as we can with everybody involved and close to home.
Thank you.
What I've learned over the course of many years is that people who have disabilities don't like to be called disabled persons. They like to be called persons with disabilities because it gives them, it's a different connotation and it doesn't define them by their disabilities, just a person who happens to have some challenges. When I was a little girl, my older brother was in a terrible car accident and lost the use of his legs. Instantly, overnight, became a paraplegic. So I am intimately aware and very supportive of persons with disabilities and persons that have these type of challenges. My children, a couple of my children have had IEPs in this district, so I know all about that process. I am very supportive of continuing services for them, like we all are, of course, and just advocating for rights of people that can't function on their own at the capability of the rest of us at all times. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. LeMay.
Would you mind repeating that question again, please?
What will you do to help protect and enforce disability rights in education as mandated in the American Disabilities Act and individual education plans? And then the question goes on to list some specific accommodations that could be made, including interpreting notes, etc.
Okay, thank you. So, of course, we need to follow the laws and all school policies and state policies and whatnot. But we need to also look at it from being more proactive and looking for where our deficiencies are. Each person's needs are going to be different. So there's no one formula that fits all or solves all. We need to work with parents, teachers, staff, and the students themselves to determine what it is that we're lacking and try to look for a way to improve in those areas. We have to have that mindset to always be determined for success and find a way to make that happen at whatever cost it can be. You know, it's a very broad category, the question, from disabilities to special education to IEPs. But, you know, in the school, we can't fix all the issues that come from outside of the school. But once they're here, we can create programs that will help students to succeed and succeed at all costs. And I think that's what's important.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I mixed my questions up here. We'll begin the next round with Mr. Mecca. Can a candidate serve effectively on the school board if they have no children attending school in the district?
So I am the father of a preschooler who, when I started my term, was not a preschooler who, when I started my term, was not in school in a preschool program or anything like that. And I felt that I could take the role of school board member effectively and seriously and did a good job at it. So I would say if it's a yes or no question, the answer is yes. For me, it's kind of interesting because I'm at the age where my child is now in preschool, and now I'm learning about the Catholic schools since my daughter is attending a Catholic preschool. And it's interesting because we have a relationship as a school board with the Catholic schools and private schools in terms of transportation and textbooks and special education and nursing services and those kinds of things. So I do believe the answer to that question is yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run for board, I guess, before I had my child in school.
It works together.
Thank you. Dr. Campo.
The question is, can a school board member serve effectively with children without having any children that are going to school in the district? I think it becomes hard. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's really helpful to have your own children telling you what's going on in each school. When they come home from school, they tell you the events of the day. It's good to have skin in the game. It's good to have an investment in the district. It's good to be part of what you're running. I think there's value to it. I wouldn't say that someone shouldn't serve if they don't have children in the district, but it certainly gives you a more full understanding if you have children that are going to school. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Fletch?
So, yes, I guess it's not impossible, no, but I would agree that when you do have kids that are in the district and again, you know, they're going to school every day and they're coming home, you're just, I think, even more passionate about it and about what's going on. That's my opinion. Again, I'm sure that, you know, everybody would do a great job with or without schools in the district, or students in the district, but that's just my opinion. I just think that maybe you have a more vested interest.
Yes.
Okay, Dr.
Well, on kind of cue, my son, who's a 2011 graduate of North High School, happens to just show up a little bit ago. He's a graduate student now at UV. But I understand the point. But again, as a board member, it's not about our children. It's about everybody's children. That's what we do. I work at a college. I'm around young people all the time. I talk to young people in my neighborhood a great deal when everybody's outside about what's going on in the schools. I think the big part is knowing about young people, knowing what goes on in the schools. And I believe that anybody with a good heart and a good head, with children, without children, should have this opportunity. It's a great service to the community. And so, again, as I say, my children are out of the district, but again, everybody should have that opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Lippman. Personally, I am here, I serve in this capacity. I want to serve in the future in this capacity because my son is still in the district. I have 4 children, 3 have already graduated. I have 1 6th grader at Transit Middle, and I'm here because he's here. And I really want to be involved in the process that makes him a successful student in Williamsville. Of course, that's my personal reason for being on the board, or one of the reasons for being on the board, but I appreciate and I understand people that don't have children in the district. That's just not my thing. I'm here because my kids are here and I'm advocating for them and all kids like them.
Thank you. Mr. LeMay?
I have to agree with a lot of the prior comments. You know, I probably would not be on the board if my children weren't in the district. You know, I'm fortunate that one has graduated, but one still is. And it gives me, as Dr. Campo had mentioned, skin in the game earlier. It definitely opens your eyes and gives you some insight as to concerns or issues, or even praise and things that the district does well. So yeah, you have to, you know, I think in a lot of ways you have to be invested. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you 100% must have children in the district in order to serve on the board. You need diversity in the board, and you need to have people that are bringing experience that might be lacking to the board. And that might be, you know, an individual that's come forth that doesn't have any children in the district presently, or maybe in the future we'll have them on the board, or, you know, who knows. But it really, in order to make a board diverse, you have to have, you know, the various skill sets and the experience in order to make the board efficient. And, you know, it might require that a board member may not have a student in the district.
Thank you. Mr. Bornstein?
Yeah, my own opinion is that if we agree that a successful board member has both the passion and the understanding of the mechanics of board service, then the answer is yes. I think that any individual who appreciates that could be a successful board member. But to be motivated to run for the board and to be on the board, it does give you a better understanding of what you're working on if you have that experience, if your child has been through the school system and benefited from it as we have. So I think in the abstract, theoretically, sure, I think somebody could be on the board if they don't have children in a school district. However, I think it does give you a little bit something extra if you do and if you appreciate that and you've experienced that.
Thank you. Okay, the next question will go to Dr. Campo first. What is your position on foreign language instruction?
I'm a big advocate in giving children more choices of foreign languages. At the moment, we have Spanish and French as choices in all 3 high schools. I believe East may also offer Latin and North may also offer German, but that's on a limited basis at just 2 schools. I would like to add perhaps Chinese to all 3 high schools and all 4 middle schools. I'd also like to add foreign languages at younger ages. First grade, second grade, third grade, fourth graders have no choice of foreign languages, and I would like to get foreign languages taught at younger ages. There's all kinds of educational research on children learning languages at younger ages being more proficient. I think foreign language is an area that we could be a leader in. We have a very diverse student body. We could be a leader in foreign language development. Right now, I think we're behind the times. We have students, I've heard from constituents where there were professors that told me that they took their children out of the district to go to private schools or to go to city honors because our choices of foreign languages are so limited. I think we should have more choices, and I think it's a wonderful question. I'm glad it was asked. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fletch.
Yes, I agree. There should be more choices. I think it should be offered at an earlier age. When my daughter was in elementary school, there was an after-school program that offered Spanish, and I enrolled her, and she absolutely loved it. And again, at such a young age, you are such a sponge. It's so much easier to learn a language than it is for me at my age. I just would not happen as easy as it is for them. So I am a big advocate of earlier and more choices, for sure.
Well, I could echo that statement. I agree that we should be teaching foreign languages earlier and to give our students more options. I know we've done some studies or asked parents what languages they want. I know that many school districts, as an example, offer instruction in Chinese. Comparative schools, Nichols, City Honors, some of the top schools in the area offer it. Other school districts in this state offer Chinese. I teach in international business. I know that Chinese is an important language, is one of them. There may be others to investigate, but again, I'll support what you've said, that we need to, if possible, and we should, teach language earlier and give the students more options, because the research says in brain development there's a variety of growth from early language instruction.
Thank you. Ms. Vasquez.
Yes. When I've traveled throughout the world to different countries that we've been to, I've noticed that most people in different countries speak multiple languages. Even the little kids are speaking 4 and 5 different languages. So it's pretty intimidating when you go to a place and you see a little 3 or 4-year-old and they need to translate for you because you don't speak their language to a store owner or to a restaurant clerk. So it's important for us to step up and be competitive and globally competitive in this arena. So yes, of course, I support our foreign language program. I agree with the other candidates here that program should be extended early for the younger age. I'm sorry, for the earlier ages and grades, so that our kids can be, as diverse in their language and their speaking and knowledge and culture as the rest of the world. You know, in our home, like many homes in the district, our home, we speak 2 languages. We speak English and we speak Spanish. So it's important for our children. It's important for our you know, our grandchildren one day to come home and know that they can go and be multicultural, multilingual in different areas around the world. It's important.
Thank you. Mr. LeMay.
3 years ago when I ran, initially when I announced my candidacy 3 years ago, the LOTE program, languages other than English, were starting in 6th grade due to budget cuts. And it was one of one of the pet peeves that really started to get me to become interested in running was to get that restored back to the 5th grade. Fortunately, that budget year, it was accomplished, but it's not a goal that I haven't stopped thinking about and have not given up on. As many will know, that I've always advocated for secondary languages as early as kindergarten, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a structured format. You know, I look at something like Dora the Explorer, and we can introduce a word or a sentence or teach somebody how to count as early as kindergarten, and then start worrying about more structure as we progress further than that. The question regarding, you know, more choices and stuff like that, of course I support that. It would be naive of me to say that, you know, being a European-only languages, you know, the Latin, the Spanish, and the French, that's all we should teach. The world continues to grow, and other languages, as interpreters, we find in the government level that they're constantly trying to find interpreters for Arabic and Chinese and stuff like that. So I strongly encourage looking at diversity when it comes to other offerings. And the question there becomes, what are those other offerings? I'm going to say to be continued. There's a survey that's gone out, and we're, you know, as board members, anxiously awaiting the results of that to see what the community came back with as to what those other languages are and what we should look for. So,
Thank you. Mr. Borenstein.
I'm a major proponent of foreign language instruction because, like the arts, it has the potential to be very enjoyable, but also it's critical to the development of young minds. It helps the young mind develop in wonderful ways. However, as to which languages should be taught in our schools, so I guess first and foremost, very definitely we need foreign language in our schools. Dr. Martzloff has just conducted a community-wide survey to ask the community what those languages should be, and I think that is the right approach to figure out what our community would like to see the school district do. And so I'm very much in favor of foreign language in our schools, and look forward to helping as best I can in this important endeavor.
Thank you. And Mr. Mecca.
私たちは外国語を勉強した方がいいと思うですね。
Yeah.
In Japanese, I just said we should all study foreign languages, right? So when I was in Japan, obviously I learned the value of studying a foreign language in a real critical way. I needed it to be able to communicate with people. So it was very important for me to study. In high school, obviously, I studied a foreign language as well, not Japanese. But I think it is critical to the development of young minds, as was stated below, or as it was stated by Eric, sorry. I think that it helps us gain cultural understanding if it is taught in combination with the culture of the language that you're studying. And I think that it's something that we should start as young as possible. When I was in Japan, I was teaching English, which is a foreign language to Japanese people. And even though my primary mission was to teach to high schoolers, I took time to go to the elementary schools and did a program with the kindergarten and first grade students. And I think that they really enjoyed it for one thing, but also for them to meet somebody that's of a different culture was a good experience for them as well. So I think it's critically important, and I'm very supportive of foreign language instruction.
Thank you. Ms. Fletch, we'll begin with you for the next round. Do you think the district is doing a good enough job preparing students for college?
This is one of my hot topics. Yes and no. Being in human resources and interviewing people all day long, I think that our students they have a great education. I think it's but it's the basics, some of the basics that students aren't learning, and for me, it's the technology issue. So yes, I think our teachers are great. I think they are learning, and have all of these opportunities. But as far as technology, it's this. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to, if I'm interviewing somebody and they're on their phone, or I don't know if anybody saw the movie, the Screenagers movie that was at Casey, and it was just so eye-opening that our kids are not, they're not able to empathize with people, and there's just too much screen time altogether. So I don't want to say, I take that back. Yes, they are prepared, but I just think that we all need to do a better job as far as the technology piece of it. It's great that we have all of this in our district. I think that it can certainly enhance education, but I think that it doesn't replace teachers or books or talking and looking at somebody in the eye.
Oh, for me?
Thank you.
You
Dr.
know,
Whitman.
working on a college campus for the last 36 years, Buffalo State for 32, I think it's a mixed bag. I see Williamsville students on an ongoing basis. Some do well, some don't, but it all goes back to what skills do they have. And the big issue these days is, are we instilling the 21st century skills they need to be successful? And many of those are the soft skills, the ability to communicate face-to-face, the ability to analyze information. Our students are always great at gathering data because they have their phones attached to them. They can always find stuff. But what does it mean, what they find? What's the value in what they're looking for? And all that matters. So it's really our responsibility to make sure, and again, I spent 7 years as a high school teacher, to make sure that we instill the academic skills that they need to be successful, to instill the social skills they need to work with others and to collaborate, teamwork, and the psychological skills, because again, what I hear talking to students and parents about what goes on is there's a large amount of stress in our high schools. There's stress all the way along the way, and it's valuable that, again, we deal with those issues and make sure that the academic, social, and psychological needs are met, so when they move on and go to college, we don't have to do as much remediation, and we don't need to keep adding more counselors and all of that, because, we would always ask, is it at the high school level they do that?
Thank you.
Yes, so the question is, do I think that the district is doing a good enough job preparing students for college? Absolutely, I do think our district is doing an extraordinary job preparing our students for college. Having millennials in my life, my older children are millennials, that generation, and the youngest guy is a Generation Z. So yes, they are articulate, they are very hungry for learning, this generation, and it's because of what they're learning in school. They have a zest for finishing the internet, which is of course a feat that's unattainable, but they try. They try every day to nauseam sometimes, and I understand that, and it's hard. That balance is very difficult, trying to get these kids away from the technology, but trying to get them to embrace the technology. So yes, they are fully prepared, or very well prepared, for college after leaving the district. My daughters graduated, one graduated last year from Canisius College, and the other graduates in 2 weeks from Canisius College, and they were products of the Williamsville School District. So yes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lemay?
Without a doubt, I think the Williamsville School District excels and provides a very vigorous curriculum that raises the bar for many students. I think it keeps them academically challenged. The district has done a great job teaming up with local colleges, universities, and even others around the state where we offer advanced placement courses. We have students that are going into college with already a semester complete, and some even with almost their entire first year of college complete, because they're taking them at the high school level here in our district. So that speaks highly of how aggressive our curriculum is here. Yeah, there is a new element, the social element, the technology element, and it's a new area that isn't necessarily a preparation skill for college. It's probably more of a preparation skill for life. And that's an area that nobody's an expert in right now. It's something that didn't exist 10 years ago. So we're constantly looking at ways to improve in that area. And I think the district is constantly evaluating and bringing in new programs and looking at the studies as they come out and trying to best tailor what we can do to improve in those areas and educate students the need to disconnect. But we also look at courses to help here internally in the high schools that help students with even the interview process of the college, help them apply, how to help them write their essays to get into college. So we're doing a lot of preparation to get students into college. But as we raise that bar and everybody comes up, we need to constantly continue to reevaluate the curriculum and how stringent it is and how vigorous it is, and then make adjustments to it accordingly. And I think the district does an excellent job of this.
Thank you. Mr. Bornstein?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. This is an extraordinary district. We should be proud of the work that our teachers do every single day. We should be proud of the work, the volunteer work that the board does, and certainly that the leadership does in our community. This is a multi-tier approach to be successful. So yes, very definitely the district seems to have its act together. Parents and families need to be engaged as well as possible to ensure that our children fulfill all of their potential. I personally would like to see a little bit more resources put into the guidance efforts of our community, of our schools, to make sure that there's somebody that a child can talk to who's not a teacher, who's not an administrator, not even a family member, who has the knowledge and understanding of the world beyond high school as they go on to look at colleges. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mecca?
For my benefit, would you please repeat the question?
Do you think the district is doing a good enough job preparing the students for college?
Okay. I think after I went first when we answered the question about board members and having children in the school district. And as I listened to the other people after me, I thought, oh, I wish I had said that. You know, that's so true. Sitting on the board, I see my fellow colleagues who have children, and they receive the WITS emails and that kind of thing. So I'm going off course a little bit here, but I'll bring myself back, don't worry.
We hope.
The benefit of having, the benefit that a lot of people here have is that they have children that have graduated from college or from high school or are very close to it, and they see the total product of the Williamsville schools and what it's done for their children. I don't have the benefit of that perspective, so I can't speak to that specifically from a personal point of view, which is unfortunate. That's a shortfall in my part at this point. But I do know that we have great programs that are helping our children get ready for college. I don't have some of the experiences that some of the people here have teaching college, where they get to see the students and the quality of student that we're producing. So that's an interesting perspective as well. So just as a board member, I know the facts about our graduation rates and that they're very good. and our AP courses and all that kind of stuff, but I wish I had more personal experience to answer this question, which I don't.
Thank you. And Dr. Campo.
Our district has data on how well we do on AP courses, and that's good. We're ahead of the national average. Great. We are ahead of the national average on SAT scores. That's wonderful. There's a lot of things we're missing data on. I'd like to know how our students are doing 2 years out of high school, 4 years out of high school. Where are they versus other students at Buffalo State or at DUville or at UB or at the University of Rochester? How are we doing with our competitors as far as student achievement once they're out? We don't have a lot of data on that, and we should. We should also be asking the parents, do they think their students were well prepared 2 years out, 4 years out, 6 years out? We don't have much data on this, and we should. We get the easy data because the AP boards send us data. So the easy data we have, the hard data where we have to actually do independent surveys, we don't do enough of. I like what Dr. Littman said about soft skills in addition to academic skills. How well do our students do with social skills, computer skills, analyzing data? We don't have a lot of information on that, and we should. We're not doing enough to obtain data of student progress once they've graduated. And I think it's something that is necessary for us so that we plan our programs to be college ready. And how well are our students doing as freshmen and sophomores and juniors at college? We don't have enough information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the round of questions. We'll have the final closing statements now, and we're going to reverse the order. So, Mr. Mecca.
Okay, I'm ready. Thank you.
1 minute, just as a reminder.
Got it. Thanks again to Ron Schubert and the PTSA Council, along with the League of Women Voters, for hosting this event. This is always a good event because all of the candidates are so sincere and are willing to put themselves out there to volunteer for this unpaid position on the school board. And tonight's been no different. It's been wonderful to spend the evening with you, with the other candidates. It is wonderful for us that we live in a community where people are so committed to the education of our children that we have 7 excellent candidates for just 3 spots. When I first ran for school board in 2008, I lost. I lost by 16 votes. Anyone who thinks their vote doesn't matter is completely wrong. Please make sure to come out and vote on May 15th, no matter who you plan to vote for. Also, be sure to vote yes for this budget this year. I think that one of your votes should be for me. I am an experienced board member who is fiscally responsible, and I am the only person running on this school board who works daily in a K-12 public school. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Borenstein.
Thank you. It has been an honor to be here tonight, especially on this dais with these other 6 distinguished citizens who give of themselves and their time to make something very big happen. It would also be an honor to serve on the board as a board member. It is a very, very important position, and I'm excited to be considered for it. In fact, when I got started in this process, I had never run for an elected position ever before, but the more that I learned and the more I got into it, the more excited I became. I really appreciate this opportunity to introduce myself, and I'm thankful to the PTSA and the League of Women Voters for hosting the forum tonight. And if I'm fortunate enough to win, I'll make educational excellence, fiscal discipline, stakeholder relationships, and music and the arts my top priorities. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And Mr. LeMay?
Well, I want to start by thanking the PTSA Council, the League of Women Voters, and especially the community for coming out this evening and attending. If re-elected, I will continue to be a responsible board member, taking my proven track record into my next term with focusing on the current and new objectives. starting with meaningful enhancements to security, but not only physical, but mental and emotional well-being of students and teachers as well. Continue to put pressure on the state for changes in the unfair testing and the evaluation systems, and demand funding for mandates and laws that are passed. Special education, I want to work with parents and teachers and staff to determine how we can do better and then make it happen. Change the culture of no to a mindset of let's find a way. Continue to provide fiscally responsible budgets. And lastly, I want to do what we did for our outdoor sports facilities, but now for our music program, using capital funds to eliminate the tax burden on our constituents. I can't be everything to everybody, but I hope my track record has proven my commitment to the students of this district, and I ask for your vote, please, on May 15th.
Thank you. Ms. Vasquez.
During his last speech, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. asked, if any of you are around for my funeral, tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. Tell them not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. Those things are not important. I'd like someone on that day to mention that Dr. Martin Luther King tried to live his life serving others. He tried to love somebody. He tried to feed the hungry, to clothe those that were naked. He tried to love and serve humanity. He went on to say that he wants to be remembered as a drum major for justice, a drum major for peace, a drum major for righteousness. All of the other shallow things will not matter. He just wanted to leave a committed life behind. So if any of you happen to be around on May 15th of this year, when the results of this election are announced, please note that on that day, Tony Vasquez was and remains a drum major. No need to mention where I went to school. No need to mention that I faithfully serve on various boards and committees. No need to mention that I own and operate a conglomerate of a multi-million-dollar company. Only mention that I am a drum major for justice, a drum major for peace, a drum major for diversity, a drum major for students first. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Littman?
I view quality education as critical to individual development. Our educational system must continue to develop and strengthen our students' academic, psychological, social, and occupational skills in an environment of school safety, student security, and support for students' mental health. I would appreciate one of your votes on line 3A on Election Day, and I am available to talk and listen with you after this meeting. But most importantly, I just want to bring some points across. I believe in two-way communication and in collaboration. I believe in preparation for meetings and for gathering information. I believe in excellence. I've received a 2015 School Board Excellence Award. I believe in people. I support the development of people. Just ask any of my former students who are now educational administrators and teachers. I believe in hard work, working hard, working late, and outworking my competition. And the goal is, again, to bring educational success to our young people. I want to thank all of you who are here, and the League of Women Voters and the PTSA, and my colleagues.
Thank you. Ms. Fletch?
Thank you. Once again, I also want to thank the PTSA and the women, the League of Women Voters, and all of you for being here tonight. We've done a lot of listening and learning, and it is even clearer to me that I would like to be one of the next board members. Everyone brings something different to the table, and what do I bring? I am a mom, I am a business professional in Williamsville. I believe in our teachers, our school, and our district. I believe in being involved, sharing ideas, and working together to maintain excellence in our district. So I am asking for you to come out on May 15th and vote yes to the budget, and I would like your vote too, which is 2A, and I'm always happy to address any questions or concerns. I have a Facebook page, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to talk to anybody tonight.
Thank you. And Dr. Campo?
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for spending 2 hours listening to us. I think that's helpful for the district. I think we learned from each other, and we learned by listening. I know I've learned by listening to the other candidates. It was wonderful the way parents, teachers, and administrators worked together for the petition for the crossing guards. I'd like to have that kind of harmony again, that kind of cooperation again. I was honored by NASA to be selected the National Science Education Ambassador. I'm glad that my courses at ECC received that recognition. I like to be known as a good teacher. It makes me proud. It's been a pleasure to work with teachers, parents, and administrators in the Williamsville Curriculum Council and on the Bus Transportation and Safety Committee. As a PTA president, it was a privilege to work with parents. It's been a privilege to work with young teachers learning how to become teachers at Buffalo State, D'Youville, and Medaille.
Thank you, Mr. Campo.
At this time, I want to thank PTSA Council Candidates Night Committee members Jen Belisai and Sarah Ronan Smith for putting this forum together. If you want to stand up for a second, be recognized. Also, a special thank you to District Clerk Lynn Carey for her valuable assistance. And a very, very special thank you to the League of Women Voters for making this event a success. And very, very important thank you to the Williamsville community for coming out tonight and sitting here for 2 hours. Now, the most important thing, though, is please remember to vote on Tuesday, May 15th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Williamsville North High School in the gym, and that's we all know it's at the corner of Hopkins and Dodge Roads.
Mr. Schubert, it's 9 p.m.
9. Did I say, what did I say?
You said 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I am sorry, and I have it right here in my notes.
Follow your note.
All right, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. You, Mr. LeMay.
It's a long night.
And I guess that does it for tonight.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone, and thanks for